Okay, we're getting into the lobby right now, so teams are ready.
Cool. Awesome. Excellent.
Totally.
Fantastic. Oh, it's you versus me. Let's do this. Oh, Retta. Oh,
Uh,
Rethra. You, Rethra. Ugh.
Excuse me. So I'm not exactly sure who I'm inviting. Apparently Bales and Kokomite.
Oh, Bales. Okay, so this is going to be a one-sided series.
Maybe.
Actually, if you remember, Bales was the guy who, once his teammate disconnected, he played better. There's that one game that we
Yeah.
cast where they lagged out and Bales suddenly went into Super Saiyan mode.
Okay. I do remember that one. It was pretty good. If you didn't see the map, or the match, rather, the map is default first as arena. The match is University of Kansas, the Jayhawks, Bales, and Star Ferry 69 versus University of South Alabama, or Kerwa. I guess that's why they're responding to Kerwa. I was like, what's the first map? And they're like, Kerwa. And I was like, Kerwa? And the guy said yes. And I was like, it's not a map.
Yeah, Kerwa Compound.
Yeah, but it is going to be Kokomite and Rigor. Alright. So Rigor is here, Bales is here, Kokomite is here, but where is the fourth player? Oh, Starfairy, there he is. Nailed it. Oh, Nathanius is here. I heard he's super pro, he won a game.
Did you watch? So I started watching Nation Wars as soon as I woke up. Mostly, actually, not because I was interested in the games, more so in Funka's casting. I'm a big Funka fan in the first place, but what was really interesting to me was I had heard all this hype about Nathanius, and sadly I had missed his games, but SC2 Highlights had my back, and I went to check out the highlight. Dude, he had the sickest medevac snipe. Like, I can't, like, I just, like, there's a reason Nathanius, for a year, was better than every other foreigner when it came to the Alima League, okay? Like, until Neeb usurped him. He was the
True.
highest ranking foreigner amongst Koreans.
I mean, he's basically the highest ranking Heart of the Swarm foreigner amongst Koreans. Give him that title. Because he won a Legacy of the Void one.
No, but seriously, it was really cool. You should definitely look up the highlight later if you get time. It was 10 out of 10 worth it.
Okay. Looks like Starfairy's client was glitching out. I'm really quite disappointed that Legacy of the Void did not fix, like, any of the bugs, to be honest. The join bug has gotten worse, actually. I went back from the beta to being able to Control Shift O without having a pause in my client to having a gigantic lag like I did in Heart of the Swarm. What else? Just not being able to get in the lobby still happens every once in a while. Little spinny thing on the making custom games still happens commonly. Quite disappointed. Thought they would fix things, but didn't.
Nope.
Oh well. Bales Teams is ready, waiting for the guys. There we go. Okay, so new best of 5.
Yeah, fresh best of 5. Game number 1 starting up here on Orena. And for those who have not seen this map, it's actually this really weird, like, long map. But it, of course, you were watching the previous series, you already got to see that stupid pathway that connects the two bases.
Yeah, it's a little silly. It is PvZ though. It has a lot of TVT, so it's cool to see PvZ again. But like, no matter what matchup you're playing, you don't want to use that choke unless you're like sure you're gonna win. It isn't helpful for like anyone except the defender.
Regor has such a spoilerific portrait, by the way.
As someone who has played the campaign, I only vaguely recognize who that was.
Really?
Yep.
With the amount of time you spent on that one level?
Yep.
the 7 hours you had to memorize his face?
Yeah. What
All
did I
right.
tell you? Oh, we're in the game. Here you go. New best of 5. In the bottom left as the Red Protoss, it is Starfairy and Bales.
Who I'm just going to say now, if they don't 3-0, I'm actually going to be a little bit disappointed. Not because I've got anything against their opponents, spawning in the top left, team combination of Kokomites and Regor. But because Bales is just such a phenomenal player on his own, and oh yeah, there we go, camera spin. Bales is such a phenomenal player on his own. WCS caliber, all this stuff. And the last time we saw them play, you could have made the argument they were on practice. Legacy of the Void was still in beta. Nobody had really done anything. It was kind of whatever. But then we saw that one game, despite the poor playing, where Bale's teammate disconnected and Bale suddenly played like the player I expected him to. So there may be some degree of being weighed down by a teammate who's not as good as you, and it's rude to say it like that, but that's sometimes the truth of it. And that may be the only thing that really causes him to struggle in the series. But again, Bales is the guy that I expect to see in WCS Season 1. Legacy of the Void's been out publicly now, so he's had plenty of time to practice despite his college schedule. I really expect Team Red to have a pretty good time in the series.
Yeah.
Although it is fair to say that Zerg is still looking good, regardless.
Yes, overall, Zerg seems to have a little bit of an edge in this matchup. Protoss is, even though beta has been out and been stable for about the last month and a half, it's still a case where like not everyone's really used to it. Doesn't have the perfect build orders, but Zerg is still looking strong. And there's multiple reasons why it could be a legitimate problem, or it could just be a problem of Protoss figuring it out. They had to change everything about their race. You know, they had really big changes, and they're still trying to work out the kinks.
Can you hear me okay if I sit like this?
Yep.
Great. I have never been more relaxed casting StarCraft 2 before.
There you go. Awesome.
Okay, so for Protoss' sake, it was fair to say that for the long time of the beta, you still saw a lot of those Adept openers. You saw them just kind of walk across the map with a Warp Prism and lives. Not really the case anymore. Warp Ins were changed a little bit towards the end of beta. The Warp Prism is still admittedly very strong, but things like Stargate openers have become a lot more popular, and I think everyone knows that the end game is get to those disruptors and have a good time.
Sure. Mass Blink Stalker with Disruptor seems to be a pretty good composition if you can get there. But Roaches and Roach Ravager attacks, either in the early or mid-game, they have a lot of effectiveness just because they are not only like decent units and decent composition in itself, but just because with that Corrosive Bile you can break down walls and just be generally obnoxious. Usually gets guaranteed damage in the form of pylons going down or rebuilding gateways, that type of stuff. But that wasn't the Zerg's plan this time. They went for a pretty safe build, a little bit too safe to be honest, because the Protoss also went for a Nexus first. They could have gotten away with a much faster third base and delayed speed a lot longer, but they chose to be a little bit safe, I guess. And that might hurt them later on, because we're already like hyping up Starfairy and Bale as the team that's going to win. And one thing you can do against people that are better than you is you can cheese or all in, sure, and that's probably the most common thing we'll see. But you can also cheese in like an opposite sense, like do stupidly greedy things, and try and get away with it and have that little bit of an edge. Which would have worked this game. The Oracle can only do so much. They can't kill hatcheries.
Well, I mean, technically it
Enough
can.
of them with enough time.
And energy.
Yeah. Sorry about
Actually,
that.
one thing I would really love to see, we're not seeing this come into play yet, and I always reference Fenner, because in my eyes, Fenner's a creative god sometimes when it comes to Zerg. You know, he was the guy who jumped on the Corruptor hype train before everyone else in the beta. He was also the guy who, towards the end of beta, was hyping on that Disruptor hype train. Through neural parasites. So if this becomes a game where we see Koka and Regor, or Kokomite and Regor, pardon me, get stuck with that lurker dynamic versus disruptors, we could actually see neural parasites start changing up the battle, which is really cool in my eyes. But at the end of the day, again, just kind of go back to the topic of lurkers, this little choke in the middle of the map that leads from base to base, that is the perfect place to have lurkers positioned and ready to fight.
Yeah. It's good defensively for every single race. But while Tuesday we got to cast a Protoss PvT, I think. Or maybe that was when they were playing random, so PvE, like a lot of things.
Yeah, it was random, but yeah, it's still to be Protoss.
Yeah. So anyways, we saw like the Protoss, and I really was not impressed by their Heart of the Swarm style. Like they got a much later third base. You could argue that they're being super safe, but that's just, it's not... It's no longer that Protoss can choose to be super safe and still have a decent macro game. They actually depend a lot more on production Legacy of the Void, like Mass Adepts, Mass Blink Stalkers, so they do need a really fast third base and an outburst of production, and they need to get there as soon as possible because, of course, well, Zerg's thinking about doing the same thing at a pretty accelerated rate, too. This matchup has definitely changed up, and I'm really happy to see that apparently Starfairy and Bales have been practicing Legacy of the Void and, know to do this, basically. Like, that third was really well timed. They got the Oracle, and right then and there, just a little bit of scouting, a little bit of harass, they said, we can go for the third base, and it's down, ready to go.
It almost sounds a little condescending to say it like that, but I mean, it is good. It is good.
What an odd wall off.
It's a wall off though, so I mean, nailed it.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 would wall off again. We got Blink on the way, +1 weapon upgrades, but there's that Robo, and this is not likely for Colossus. I still think, and I think it'd be really cool to see Colossus 1 or 2 be a very important part of the matchup, but as we all know, it's Disruptors that are really bringing the hype.
Yeah.
The Stasis Wards are kind of a cool addition as well. I really wish they weren't forced autocast. I think there's so many cool things we could watch players do special tactics-wise if that wasn't the case, but unfortunately they are forced autocast, and they do catch a couple of links here.
Yeah. But that's not really what they want. They want the main attack of Roaches and Hydras or any combination to kind of lose half of the army and be almost like force fields used to be. Sentries aren't nearly as popular in Legacy of the Void as they were in Heart of the Swarm, but their idea of cutting the army in half is sometimes still necessary. Well, Stasis Wards can kind of do that if they're unexpected anyways. But like you said, they're really hard to kind of surprise your opponent now. And you can only make so many of them when the Oracle is also being used to scout and, you know, revelate and all that.
Huh. I never really thought of the, I guess, conjugation of the word revelation, but yeah, revelate would be the right way to say it.
Nailed it. Alright, so a little bit of a poke, but not too much. Not with the Mothership, but with the Choke is still pretty safe, oddly enough. Otherwise, you are risking losing an entire army and a couple Ravager shots. And speaking of, Ravagers over here breaking down the rocks. So this is this is what the map designer intended, right? Like if you use this space, then it's risky, but it gets you there faster. But if you break down the rocks, then it's obviously a lot safer, but it does delay the attack a little bit. And I like what our Orange Zerg is doing here, in that they're not really going all in with the Roach Ravager, although those can be effective all-ins, very effective all-ins actually. They're going to a hive with just a little bit of pressure. Ooh.
Well, there's one of those Stasis Wards, catches a lot of the fodder, so these Roaches and Ravagers are actually somewhat unguarded. Keep in mind, those Stasis Wards do not trap your own units, only the enemy, so there's a small amount of time where they can kind of dance with these Ravagers, probably just blink on top of them even, but unfortunately getting stuck by the AI in this wall, whoever's controlling the micro is really throwing it for Team Protoss right now. I'm just going to say that outright.
Oh no, the blink forward is probably bad as the stasis is going on cooldown and everything that's been warped in has been killed, and they also could have just been completely surrounded with the blink stalkers, so definitely a mess up right there. Now blinking back, but they have lost what they needed against the Lings, to be honest. Like, Blink Stalkers can deal with Roaches and Ravagers perfectly fine, but the influx of Lings with their upgrades too are being very annoying.
Okay, so it's annoying for sure, but there was a counter drop, I guess you could say, a warp prism on the other side of the field. Zealots were being quite annoying. They drove drones off on mining the main, so not the worst case scenario because this didn't go completely unresponded to. But I got to tell you, whoever is holding the micro, first off, I highly doubt it's Bales. But secondly, I really hope they are fighting with each other right now because that was a huge mistake. That was so many free kills in those Stasis Wards. Jump over them with the Stalkers, get on top of the Ravagers, then blink back to safety before Stasis wears off. I mean, it lasts for an extremely long time. Mistakes were made.
Yeah. I don't think it was Bales either, but the use of Stasis Wards was popular at one point and then quickly fell off. The AI of having units that just do not attack you but are still clogging up the area does take some getting used to. Unless you played Brood War, I guess.
So, I'm going to go ahead and toot my own horn about this, because there's not a lot of stuff I can say I did first, but within, like, the first, like, couple days of the Legacy of the Void beta, I figured out pretty quickly how to mix Disruptors and those Stasis Wards. And this is all the more reason I wish we saw some Disruptors in play, because can you imagine, with the way the Lings are positioned, just one Disruptor shot getting shot into the heart of that at the perfect time, instantly free kills. But we do have, as you zoomed in, the Ultralisk Cavern on the way. This starts changing things up pretty drastically if they come into play, but 72 Lings, soon to be on Adrenal Glands. Adrenal Glands double the effectiveness of what they have in Heart of the Swarm, make these Lings very dangerous units. Adepts left behind, blinks backwards, some Disruptor shots, get good shots on those Lings, though.
Ooh.
And the Stasis Trap grabs the other quarter of them. This ends up going pretty well for Team Protoss, but I don't know how intentional that was.
Yeah, I thought they were going to get surrounded and killed when they had an opportunity to use the cheaper recall. They were right underneath the Mothership core. But it ended up not going so badly. They're, of course, going to go back and catch the Lings, too. They didn't lose their expensive units, which is the Disruptors. I think they lost like the 1 or 2 sentries they had, but at that point,
oh, what's this Mothership core doing?
Being very brave. Very brave.
Yeah. Brave is a funny way of saying stupid, but yes, indeed.
They scouted the Hive, but they didn't scout the Ultralisk Cavern. If they're clicking on the Lings, they will notice they have 2-2, and if they're paying attention to how quickly their stuff was dying, they might even notice that they had adrenal glands. But
Oh, this stasis ward.
oh, the Queen. So where? But yeah, so if they're clicking on the Lings, they might be able to determine that it is a fast Ultralisk build, and especially the timing of the Hive. But if they're not, then they might still be like worrying about, I don't know, Vipers, something like that, which is not. It is a worry further down the road, but not exactly what they deal with right now. I say that because they're not building any Immortals; they're just still building Disruptors.
But here's the thing, right? This area to fight, if they can bait everything to this choke, that's fine. I don't like that they're pushing out of the choke, though. They could be fighting just one of the Ultras at a time. Instead, Disruptors go down, and this ends up being a really bad engagement.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, they could have abused that choke forever, but they would never be able to push out of it themselves. Well, maybe, depending on how good the Disruptor shots were, I suppose. Ultras take, like... They still have high health, even though their armor is really what's made them OP here in Legacy of the Void.
Sitting here on 7 armor. Soon to be 8 with that +3 upgrades. 500 health is a lot to tear through. Immortals are a pretty hard counter to this, but right now there's other things happening. We got the Lings running by, those adrenal glands really showing off how powerful they are. They just tear through the Adepts like nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
Stupid, sexy Zerglings.
They do have +few weapons on the way, but obviously no armor, so yeah, they're tearing through those adepts pretty quickly. And no cannons to help out either, they only just finished. Fungal growth is going to accompany the Ultralisk. Lings were already pretty good as a supplement to them, but of course, the more you supplement Ultras with, the better they are. Just plain old Ultras will die fairly easily at any amount of kiting, and then, you know, Lings help, Transfuses help, and of course, Fungals and Blinding Cloud also help. Now, they made a big mistake with that fight where you were like, they should really be using the choke against them. That's true, but at least now they're doing the correct response to any old version of the Ultralisk build, you know, double Robo, a decent economy, pump out 2 Immortals, or whatever you want to get. I guess Disruptors are still okay. The reason the Disruptors, I'm like a little iffy on them, is that Disruptors, they're better when they're attacking something that is also ranged. Like, they'll always win Lurker Wars, for instance. But if Ultras are getting right on top of you, you do run the risk of, well, A, losing the Disruptors as you blink back, because they'll go down pretty quickly, but also hitting your own units as you try and control all of those, what do you want to call them, attacks of the Disruptor? I don't call them shades, but you know what I mean.
The Purification Novas?
Sure. The actual attack could hit your own units when you're trying to hit Ultras.
The Purification Novas?
Is that what they're actually called?
Yeah, Disruptors are Purifier units, man. Should be obvious.
That makes sense! I'm sorry. Anyways, if you get nothing but Immortals and Archons, though, when you blink backwards, they'll still tear through both the Lings with the Archon Splash and the Ultras with the Immortals anti-armor. So that's why I'm just a little iffy on the Disruptors.
Actually, it's funny now that we've played the campaign. No spoilers, or not many spoilers, but the whole Purifier element's kind of cool. Those Disruptors get some decent shots off, but as we see, they're targeting the Infestors. This is a really smart choice. No fungal growths to endanger these units, but more importantly, no chance at neural parasiting their Disruptors and using them against them.
That would be nifty. Queens caught in stasis would be rather important if they had any more transfuses, but no transfuses. I mean, hopefully they'll die still. It's time to remake those, obviously. Despite, oh, hey, there's Lings in here. Despite having consistent expansions from both players, really, you don't see much of a Bank Legacy of the Void ever. It's usually very high action and concentrating, and of course losing minerals in your previous bases quickly too. Robo's in a bit of an odd position. That might be where sniping, they're kind of dodging around it to get to, of course, the units that are attacking them, but you know, that double Robo production, you win one fight and they can't reproduce those Immortals, it's pretty important. War Prism's gonna try and get the army off their backs, though.
It's clever. This is a good use of minerals right now, because right now they're lacking on gas pretty hard. DTs are an interesting choice. There's actually not a lot of detection. They'll hit for about as hard as an Immortal. And, ooh, this Overlord can pick up and drop.
Ooh, all the Disruptors get caught behind, probably because the Blink Stalkers, well, blinked and left them behind, basically. And now there's no Immortals, there's only one Archon. Stalkers, they're okay against Ultras, but only if you can kite them forever.
Unfortunately, Archons are not quite like the Legacy cinematic Archons, and, I mean, I gotta say, I still think it'd be cool if they had an attack that just straight up ripped a tusk off of an Ultralisk, made it do less damage, but that War Prism left idle for the time being. All the Warpins necessary at home, as they are still losing control of this game for the Ultras. Although slowly but surely starting to chip away at them. I like these stasis wards. It's soaking up the links. It means the stalkers don't have to waste shots or run away from them. Unfortunately, there's still more coming, and there's a drop now heading towards the main. And Kokomite and Regor, I was wrong to doubt these guys in the series. They've got this. The late game is theirs, and they're destroying the mining base here on the left side. Drops heading towards the main. Some links getting into the natural, falling apart on all different angles. Good game finally gets called. Kokomite and Regor will take the first game in the series.
And what was really cool about that game was that it wasn't just Starfairy and Bales messing up and us being disappointed in them. Like, you know, I think Rifkin was...
Actually, no, I want to rewind and get back to that point. I think that could have been a game-changing moment, honestly. Like, if we did a recover replay and took over at that point in the game, I think the game goes drastically differently if that's handled different.
I agree. I mean, there was a lot of points in that game where both teams had, like, questionable engagements. Protoss maybe a little bit more so with the two that I recall. But it still was the case where they were playing Legacy of the Void correctly, first and foremost, which means that it's a much funner game to actually watch, in my opinion. Funners don't worry about it.
I mean, even with the mistakes, that was still a fun game to watch, no question about it.
Yeah, but the simple fact that they constantly were expanding... First of all, they were allowed to because they weren't really all in each other too early, so there is that. But just that when you can't afford 400 minerals, then or 300, I guess, in Zerg's case, you do want to expand. It is a game where expansions are absolutely necessary. And so it created that, like, really, like, expansive, like, I see, like, a world war coming here. It just looked cooler to watch, and got to a lot of those late-game units, which can be fun, but also infuriating. Unfortunately, we do see a lot of Roach Ravager all-ins in PvZ, so I feel like the testing of Ultra Ling with Adrenal Glands is not really being tested to its fullest. So it might be OP, but the data isn't there.
I'll run, isn't it Dusk Towers?
Oh, sorry. That's the one I just made.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, well, yeah, we're going to get into this here for map 2. Keep in mind, this is the last best of 5 we're casting tonight. Next time we cast CSL will be on Saturday. Quite a few games that evening as well.
Mm-hmm. A lot of casting for us. On and off CSL.
Joining off you.
Kokomite has to restart. Can invite Rager, though. Someone asked in chat, where are the air units? Not exactly a bad question, but,
Unfortunately, while that looked really disgusting on the ground, air looks even worse. Corruptors are too good, too cost-effective, and you can go Void Rays all day you'd like. You can try and get some carriers out, but at the end of the day, they just don't cut it. They really don't.
And if you're thinking that they could have transitioned somehow after seeing mass ultras, I mean, Zerg was a transition race, and even they had difficulty in Legacy of the Void because there's no bank given to you in this game. So it's not like they were going to be like, oh, ultras, let's just go 4 Stargates and counter them with carriers. That's not going to happen. Alright, so we have everyone in the lobby, just ready for Bales and Starfairy. Well, I guess I'll ask it in the lobby chat, or whatever. Come on.
Yeah, lobby chat being part of the regular chat is irritating. I'm still not in love with it yet.
Nope. No. I don't like it either. Oh, whoopsie.
Dusk Towers. Woo.
Yes, Dusk Towers. It was loser's pick, so that was Pernos's pick. Makes a little bit of sense. You have an in-house expansion. We'll see what their plan is, I guess, with that in mind. We are in a best of 5, and these guys are actually down 1-0, surprisingly, with Bales on their team. It's the Blue Protoss, Bales, and Starfairy.
Yeah, I mean, we even had one of, I guess, the Bales fans in chat saying, I've never seen Bale lose a game, and I mean, I just expected him to be able to 1v2, frankly, if we needed him to, but that wasn't the case, and his opponents proved to be strong. Spawning here in the top right, it's going to be the yellow Archon comprised of Regor and Kokomite.
Yeah.
Kokomite doing all right.
Maybe. We don't know what he did. Could have done absolutely nothing.
He was part of the team. Even just moral support.
Moral
Still good
support.
enough, man.
That's true. That's true. And one of the things everyone's brought up, basically. We've brought up directly, and everyone's, suggested in multiple threads. Give an option to see who's clicking on what. Just, different colored markers when they click would be easy enough. Not implemented yet. Maybe in the future, and that would be really helpful. For now, we just kind of have to ask, like, hey, what are you doing? And I suspect that some people are being a little bashful. Is that the right word? Like, Bales might not want to make Starfairy look bad, and he'll just be like, oh, I'm totally the macro, but also I'm like 90% of the micro. But he wouldn't actually say that. I only say this because we did cast an Archon All-Stars match where they were, I think, told not to do everything, the pro gamer side.
Bunny had to legitimately do it.
But I'm pretty sure Bunny did everything, so... I don't know, downplay some things, upplay others.
Yeah, we question it because we don't really know the inner workings or even the mentality of the players playing the CSL. Their priorities are obviously on school. They might not care too much about this stuff, but I do wonder if there is something to that degree where Bales could just simply say, bro, let me carry this. Starfairy's like, okay, you got this. I'll just show up and be the other guy. Pull a full-on Scarlet and Hawk at, the Red Bull WCS type thing.
There is the problem, though, that... the most common divvy of jobs is macro, micro, because it makes sense for sure. But you do have Korean pro gamers who are definitely trying very hard in the Red Bull finals at DC. Say that they only had one person just as a spotter, so they weren't trolling. They weren't like obviously one of us is better than the other, so don't touch anything. They legitimately thought it was a better plan. Just have it was like Dargu and whoever was with him. Just like look around and be like, oh, is he attacking here? Is he attacking there? Okay, you have drones. Okay, you missed your fourth guys on gas. That type of stuff. So it's it would be hard to force players to actually divvy up the roles when there's so many ways to do it. I'm sure there would be more ways as the game develops.
See, for me, I would just be, all right, you pair up the minerals and the workers. Make sure they're on the close mineral patches, all right?
You're doing something, but it's like menial work. Doesn't even mean anything. I did mention that maybe Protoss, having chosen this map, would use the the in-house expansion to maybe like accelerate their economy even faster than last game, because they got a third pretty fast, and they went Nexus first too. But it was Zerg who took the opportunity to do that. It was a 3 hatch for 4 pool, and they're probably gonna have some pretty heavy production in a minute here.
Well, we obviously saw through game 1 that Regor and Kokomite know how to play the late game. They know how to use the units. They know which ones to make as well. The Ultralists were, I mean, the most common choice. We're even seeing Broodlords and stuff come back into it too. It's kind of crazy because I think for Zerg, one of the greatest things they have advantage-wise is not necessarily the +8 armor or the adrenal glands. It's their ability to expand pretty easily and just get those minerals coming as fast as they need to reproduce army units and throw them away. Whereas when you're playing Protoss or Terran, okay, you can make the argument Terrans could mule a bunch, Protoss have Chrono Boost, but none of those really help expand the same way Zerg do. And it is worth noting on Orena, Regor and Kokomite did have pretty much half the map under their control for that first game.
Yeah.
So when you've got that many bases, you can kind of just go for what you'd like at a point.
I already talked about it last cast, but if you're interested in like game design and game mechanics at all, there's that potential problem where Zerg could have more than just Protoss having to change up its tactics on its side. It could actually have too much of increased production early on. It's interesting to think about, but way too early in the well, it's not beta anymore. In the game to tell.
Well, if we can be completely blunt about it, A, the multiplayer is still basically the beta, ever so slightly polished. But secondly, it is still the start of the expansion. It might as well be the beta. Several things are still being figured out. This is why they timed it out, I imagine, or I hope, and it was not just a coincidence, to have this sort of shift in the off-season. So players have time to train, developers have time to balance everything before springtime when WCS Season 1 begins.
Yeah. It's gonna be weird to see this game, for instance, 6 months from now. Just like it was weird seeing Wings of Liberty from the beginning to 6 months later. Especially because Wings of Liberty had so many drastic patches within the first 2 weeks. They got rid of some really OP spells that most people who Starcraft 2 fans have not heard of, just because they're kicked so quickly from the release.
I still always go back to the Shredders, man. I always go back to the Shredders.
Heart of the Swarm, yes. I'm talking about, I don't think this was in the actual game, but for instance, they used to have starports that could fly and produce. That was their original kind of cool thing.
Yeah!
That was in the
I'm
alpha, I
so
believe.
mad that never happened. I thought that was going to be the coolest thing to have like a mobile base for Terran.
Yeah.
Actually, can we talk about how the Terratron isn't a real thing? Like, that would be the ultimate late game unit.
Yeah.
You're maxed out on, like, supply. You could just turn 10 of your barracks into, like, a walking robot. Like, that'd be so sick.
So our Zerg team has fallen behind a little bit in drones, but obviously 10 more on the way. They're going to boost it real quick.
Yo, sorry, I'm just going to go back on this. We had talked on our channel about trying to run a tournament with special units and loadouts. We should totally give Terran the opportunity to build a Terratron. You would have to build, like, the buildings in the position, too. So, like, you'd have to have space in your base to position a factory as the chest and, like, command center as the head and all that. And, like, the combination would activate the Terratron.
That would be cool. I still think, like, the problem is...
Man. It could be like the mothership of Terran units. It'd be so sick.
That's exactly what it would be. But, like, I've always wanted to do, like, previous patches, basically. Like, what if we did make everyone play with Wings of Liberty Original, like, first week it was out? There are some really stupid spells in that game, and it would look so interesting with everyone being actually good at macro and micro.
I feel like you say that right now, and like, yes, you could apply it to Archon mode or something, but I just keep thinking Dream Pool and how much of a disaster that was.
It would be so much different, though. Sure, like, same concept.
No.
But...
I'm sure whoever came up with that had the exact same train of thought you're having right now. Like, wouldn't it be cool?
Oh, yes. They absolutely did. I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I was actually interested in seeing what Heart of the Storm would look like on older maps. It just so happens that they're still bad maps. Even if they also have, like, you know, like, smaller maps or kind of, like, maybe that would be a thing. They're just bad maps in general.
You're gonna tell me Zalnaga Caverns wasn't the best map of StarCraft 2 history?
Yeah, I know. Shocking, right?
I don't believe you. I think you're confused.
Anyways. Zerg is taking over the map. Last game, they had some pretty decent creep spread. It wasn't really hard creep spread, to be honest, so it got over there pretty quickly. Dust Towers, obviously, with a lot more space in the middle, is going to be a little more difficult, but they are on top of it with a lot of creep timbers going every which way. Not as important versus Protoss, but it's, you know, it's free vision, so that's always going to be good. And if you're really good at it, you can start blocking bases.
So, the Oracles accomplished very little in this game, and most importantly, on the back end of that, you said, like, Zerg are getting away with the bases, but they're also getting away with tech. They're getting away with +2, no competition whatsoever. Hive tech is on the way with no resistance. I feel right now more than ever, if you leave Zerg players alone, they're going to come out on top every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, the Protoss Death Ball does not mean what it used to in Heart of the Swarm versus Zerg or versus Terran.
Yeah, and income graph, by the way, really quick, just really showing exactly how much they're getting away with all these extra bases.
Yeah, I can't show the graph anymore, but yeah, obviously you see the income tab there. Quite a ways up. They're both on an insane number of workers. Protoss, especially at 77, will definitely want to get rid of those as the game goes on and, you know, get Immortals and Archons and whatnot. But I think this game has gone a little bit slower, believe it or not, in terms of tech than last game. I think they were a little quicker and everything, including Hive. But regardless, they're still looking to get away with it, as Protoss isn't ready to go yet. I
didn't realize these 10 spine crawlers were actually for legit. I thought this was going to be one of those things where you try and go over the supply cap, but these are actually straight-up defensive spine crawlers.
Something we saw a lot of in Heart of the Swarm, especially with Swarm hosts, but going back to just losing minerals out quicker and quicker in Legacy of the Void, this is no longer just like, I have 10,000 minerals anyways, like, big deal, 10 spine crawlers now, but actually, 10 spine crawlers, a missile turret ring, all a little expensive as the game goes on. Now they haven't done anything, so they're banking 2,000 minerals, but soon enough, they'll regret it, potentially. Overlord drop's gonna come in here. I really wish they were lurkers, to be honest. That'd be so cool.
Well, Adrenal Gland Lings, look at the job. Actually, it's not quite Adrenal Gland Lings yet, but it's still a lot of Lings with 2 weapon upgrades. They're going to be able to tear through a lot of these buildings very quickly. And Bales and Star Fury are completely out of position with the army. In fact, they're just choosing to push by the looks of it and say, screw it, there's not a lot we can do. So hopefully Warpins will save them. Lots of probes have already gone down.
A lot of probes, 22, 23, 24, just continuously rising. They have a War Prism attack that was hoping to be paired up with their main attack, but it doesn't really work out that way. The Lings, especially once they have Adrenal Glands, are going to be able to take care of that, no problem. And, well, not only units being warped in, but also structures, man. I mean, they're already tearing through the gateways, but there you go, it's kicked in now. They're going to be able to tear down anything they want. And they need that production if they hope to continue what is effectively becoming an all-in. Their army isn't so bad, but with the Disruptors, it is... well, let's be honest, more control-focused than Heart of the Swarm Protoss Death Balls were. They do have to be careful. The quicker they rush in, the more chances they have to mess up that micro. Where Zerg really just has to be patient and kind of wait. They're the ones that are getting upgrades, ultras. They have that Spine Crawler wall that is being very useful right now. Lings it into the 4th base now, too, a little bit. Not enough to really do too much damage.
But in the middle of the map, Zombie got
God.
big fight going down. Huge surround with those Lings.
Oh,
all
dear.
carrying through. Ravagers get the shots off on top of the Disruptors. Everything falling apart here for the poor Protoss team. And this is just, it's looking like a really nasty repeat of game number 1. They got to the late game, and now they're just kind of nailing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't being cameraman so much fun?
Yeah, luckily, I mean, you got the gist of that fight. They got surrounded. Like, you missed all
Yeah, I
of
know.
it.
I just hate that because when I do that, I get so much shit for it, dude. I didn't want you to miss it, so that's why I yelled. I'm sorry for yelling. But Rhaegar and Kokomite will take game number 2. They now have a 2-0 lead in this best of 5, something that I did not see coming. I'm not sure what's going on with Bales and Starfairy, but they're going to have to sort their stuff out if they want to bring this back for map 3.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I mean, a really big problem is that they're letting Zerg get away with anything, and like you've said before, it's a big problem. You had Protoss Death Balls were scary, but even back then in Heart of the Swarm Host Turtles were even scarier.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they got nerfed, but
Was that your cat?
yes, it was my cat.
The cat is so damn loud.
Yeah. And Legacy of the Void, they don't have nearly as easy of a death ball in that late game.
And Legacy of the Void, cats are much louder.
That's true. Waiting on the map choice, and it's best of 5, so hopefully they know. Just looking, really debating on which one to choose.
Oh man, I'm wondering if
Why this map? I was gonna say the only map they shouldn't choose is a Protoss versus Zerg. It's Prion Terraces, but that's what they choose.
they're gonna take 3 gold bases and have a grand old time. I just realized though on the wait screen, the idle screen where you've got Artanis who jumps in, right? He does all that cool smashing stuff. Biggest spoiler in the game, right off the bat, his things were cut on the back.
I didn't even pay attention to that.
Neither did I, but that's kind of cool because it's one of those things where it was like hiding in plain sight, right? This has been available since before the story mode was even made public.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool.
We didn't
Blizzard-
notice we're at the Blizzard offices.
You sneaky devils.
Imagine if we had noticed, like we were that much into the lore and everything. We're just like, hey Ryan, like, where's the tendrils?
Or anyone else, because we don't want to name anybody that would get us in trouble, Zombie, over them.
Oh, my bad.
I will say though, the spoiler thing that you had read to me, I'm curious if you lied to me or if that wasn't actually what ended up being on the wall. Because I noticed that never happened.
Oh, I kind of forget what I said, but I think I remember. Yeah, well, they did change the Heart of the Swarm ending when multiple times before its release. So.
Well, here's what I was gonna write. Actually, I forgot. I was gonna write it so we don't spoil it for stream.
I think I know what you're gonna write.
Because of the way that played out, you know, I'm wondering if that's like what actually happened.
Yeah. Maybe.
Sorry, guys. We're trying to be halfway decent human beings and not spoil the campaign because the campaign was actually quite good. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the story was quite predictable, but they did a good job still making it like a cinematic experience. I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to figure that out later. It's been Skype. Oh, figuring this out though.
So we're going to remake.
Yep.
Hype! 4 p.m. Why would that be 5 p.m. EST? Wouldn't that be 7 p.m. EST?
Oh, he meant. Oh. PST. I don't know why I thought that was Central Time. I'm a little dumb.
Well, I mean, okay. If you take a capital P and take away the straight line and then flip it, that does say CT.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand. I see where you're coming from. I can see what your brain did. I got your back. I got your back.
Totally. Okay, that's still not what I had written down. I thought it was the same time as today.
Yeah, I thought it was too, but that's okay. Well, that'll be interesting.
That'll be like a back-to-back cast, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be nice if we could host it and then just have the viewers transfer over.
Join, sir.
Sorry, I was looking at our schedule.
Please, sir.
My lord.
Yeah.
The picture on Reddit right now, just the title says "damn." So I clicked it, and it's like if you had both of these, and it links like an N64 and a PlayStation. It says, "I'm sorry, your parents got a divorce."
It links a what in a PlayStation?
An N64 and a PlayStation. Like if you had both of these growing up.
I mean, it's kind of funny, but I have both, and my parents are still married. So.
Yeah, but you also basically live in a mansion, have a butler, and are a rich person.
Yeah,
so
basically.
Basically. Sorry, is food not often regularly delivered to you
By
one of your
my
many
mom.
servants?
Who's a very nice woman. So excuse you.
So this is how I stay true. You know, I don't let our money get the best of me. I still humbly serve my daughter soup at her computer.
Yes, that's what she says. You know, she's so nice that she actually...
Oh, no, look.
Oh.
Oh, okay, it was an accident. They picked the wrong race. Ah, damn it. I thought this was going to be for real.
Ah. Yeah, they can't change race, so as cool as that would have been.
Damn
cool,
it.
Another remake. Right. I was gonna say, before she even knew that she was gonna be invited to my friend's wedding, she made an Afghan for her. My mom really likes making Afghans. Do you want one? What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is no.
Oh, come on. They're comfy.
You know, here's the thing, right? If I were ever meet your mom in person, I would totally take an Afghan. But you know what the sad thing is? We would definitely take a photo together. You wouldn't be invited to this photo, by the way. It'd be your mom wearing that stupid-ass shirt and me wearing her Afghan.
That'd be pretty good. Okay, third time's the charm, right?
Right.
So join.
Well, I would if I had an invite.
No. Okay. We're gonna go. Just Protoss and Zerg, and no one lag out.
Fingers crossed. Prion Terraces once again. Yo, so I keep seeing all these things on Reddit about Fallout 4, and I really want to play it so badly. And it's not even about like the gameplay or the story or the power armor. It's all these people who are like building their own towns and making these cool pictures and things.
I know. I want a SimCity and Fallout.
I know! Okay, Zombie Grub. Best of 5 time. Will this close it out?
I'm not sure. In the bottom right, as the blue Protoss, they're down 2-0. It is Bales and Starfairy.
Woo! In the top left, it's going to be Rigor and Kokomite.
Woo. Very good late game. Now, one base all-ins, they don't work. They stopped working really in Heart of the Storm, for the most part. 2 base all-ins also don't really work. They're getting defended pretty easily. But that might still be worth trying, because they obviously are going to get dominated in the late game.
Well, I'm really excited to see if it's going to be a gold base. And it looks like that drone is just going to take the natural for Rigor and Kokomite, so they're not going for a quick gold. I mean, there's still a third base they can take pretty quickly, and it looks to be what that drone's doing, if not scouting. Again, for those who don't know, Prion Terraces, maybe you haven't seen this map before. This map is littered with gold bases.
They didn't take the... Oh. Huh. I was gonna go into how smart they're playing, and I mean, they're still playing okay. It's not like they're dumb, but so far, Bales and Starcraft have always gone for a Nexus first. And as far as I know, fake Nexus first, that means like they don't really, have a lot of probes on it, into a 4-gate, hasn't been used in Legacy of the Void. It was a pretty uncommon build anyways in Heart of the Swarm, too. What I'm basically trying to say is they probably could have gotten away with this as a natural, or a fast third before pool, like they did last game. And unfortunately now they're not. They're instead going for speedlings, which are going to give them a little more control in the early game and a little more safety, but obviously not as much economy. In fact, if I saw this as the Protoss player, I just would be like, oh, they're Roach Ravager attacking us. Because why wouldn't they take that gold base? Like, why wouldn't they take a third base this early against us?
I think it is a bit of a mistake not to take advantage of a gold like this as well. If you're playing Terran or something, you can't really do it anymore because of the exposed base. But that's Zerg in a nutshell for you. It's the mobility of their army that's their defense, not exactly static or SimCity. So having an exposed third at this gold, even an exposed natural at that gold, it's not so bad for a Zerg player. And I don't know, especially with the way that they've been kind of winning the series through economy, late game, and taking 7-6 bases, hive tech and all that. Everything screams that they should have taken a gold here. Now, I'm not going to get overly critical. It's not the end of the world that they didn't. They finally do take it now as their third. But Regular and Kokomite have found victory in the late game every time they've played against Bales and Starfairy. And if they can get there again, it'll probably be a good time.
Mm-hmm. So the third down and only drones coming out, obviously no big pressure. One of the other popular builds we've been seeing is just making like 14 lings, because it is the hope of Protoss to get a fast third base themselves, that will give you that potential cancel on it, and be worth the delay on your own third. But I don't see those lings coming out quite yet. Speed is about to finish, so maybe if they get a good scout with the Overlord, and both of them are going in right now, so if they see like a ton of gateways, well, try and get units, a lot of units as fast as possible. If they see not a lot of gateways and all the gas is taken, for instance, then yeah, make a couple of lings, try and get a cancel. It's actually going to be a fairly quick robo, and this could be just to make a pretty early Warp Prism and really provide Protoss with a lot of harassment opportunities.
I'm actually really curious on whether or not Bales and Starfire... I mean, so we talked about the possibility of air before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we see it, maybe we don't, but I just kind of feel like 2 games in a row ground hasn't worked. So maybe it is time to change it up. Even though Void Rays, or hell, even I would love to see Mass Phoenix, is what I would love to see.
Yeah, good way to get into those carriers or borders, or whatever you're trying to get into, even Tempest, I suppose, from some people, is to go for like an early Warp Prism, sure, or those Mass Phoenixes, because the Warp Prism goes to one side, the Mass Phoenixes go to the other. Warp Prism with only minerals, and Observer is still useful anyways for detection or map control, whatever you want to call it. And those Phoenixes provide some pretty decent offense and defense, and that can give you a lot of time to get to those carriers, which of course were nerfed in their build time and are harder to get to. But that's not going to be the case for Protoss. It actually looks to be a very interesting build. So they are getting Immortals, but it's not an Adept Immortal all-in. It might be a Charge Lot Immortal Archon, if they are getting a Templar Archives like right now. But they're not, so just Immortal Charge. It's interesting.
I like the Adept Harass, though, coming on here with those Adepts. Mm-hmm. Looking at the Upgrades tab, by the way, guys, it's a little bit of a well-known bug, because we see the Adepts here. These are the Collector's Edition Adepts. They've got the skins. They look really nice. Kind of like the Purifier Adepts, I guess, if you want to call them that. Anyways, in the Upgrade tab of any game you guys see cast for the next probably week or so until Blizzard fixes it, you're going to see Adepts and Colossus there, and that is the skins from the Collector's Edition of the game.
Yep. So Depth Harass doesn't do too much, but there's no mining on the gold base right now, which is pretty worthwhile. Only at 46 drones, not too impressive either. Would like to be up to 50s. Especially because they should be making nothing but units, right? Like attack units right now. They're the last few drones, and that should be it. A Ling does see the lack of a gold base over here and a lack of a gold base over there, so they know that they will have to be defensive soon enough. They're going to go ahead and invest into a macro hatchery. They aren't going for those mass Lings. They're going for Roaches this game, which might be a bit of a surprise to Bales and Starfairy, who are maybe hoping that those Adepts would do better against Lings that didn't quite have their upgrades yet, but were met with Roaches, which obviously do fine against them. Charge also won't be like as effective. Obviously, it still does that extra damage on attack, and charges in general are scary. But zealots, they counter lings, not roaches. So that's where the immortals really have to come in and basically not die. Don't get targeted.
I mean, this push is looking scary. There's not a lot of tech behind it, though, is like the problem, I feel. Charge is cool for a little bit of extra damage. And the Immortals, okay, they'll hit hard on the Roaches, but Defender's advantage in production should be in favor of Team Zerg here.
Ravagers have really changed up the dynamic of 2-base all-ins, unfortunately for Protoss. Because, I mean, too many 2-base all-ins were boring in Heart of the Swarm, but you still want to give them the option. Now, there are those 3 Immortals really powering through those Roaches. Dear God, the Charge is just providing a little bit of buffer so the Immortals aren't being targeted down. Also, the capability of the Warp Prism. Oh, it does get sniped. That was a really nice snipe with the Corrosive Bile. Absolutely necessary, but maybe a little bit too late. Hard to tell. There aren't really any proxy pylon. Well, there's one, but it warps very slowly.
It does warp in slowly. The Immortals are still chasing this off, but keep in mind, the Immortals do not deal bonus damage to those Ravagers. They're not armored units. So Lings and Ravagers are actually going to be pretty okay to hold what little there is left. Drones weren't really slaughtered through this. Only a couple died. This is an entire army for Bales and Starfairy traded out for what I often refer to as cosmetic damage. Not a lot actually went down here.
Yeah. The snipe on the Warp Prism was absolutely critical. You need that faster warp, and you just need, reinforcements in general. And now they're super delayed. Also, one Immortal did get sniped, so not gonna be able to bust through those Roaches as quick as before. And this is starting to peter out, man. Like, this is what Protoss gone to for the 2-base all-in. If you make Ravagers, you usually have a good time.
It's not even about these slow warp-ins either, so much as just there's no upgrades behind this. Archons might be potentially on the way next, but as we've seen, these Zealots coming in actually do pretty good. The 8 damage they get from charging in takes care of the legs pretty quick.
Yeah, this one Immortal's got 20 kills, the other one 14. They have really done very well, and I think that fight went poorly, mostly because there weren't enough Ravagers. There's only 2, and they didn't really get any shots off. There's a little bit of miss micro there, too. And they have to be more careful. They actually cannot engage the Immortals with such few Roaches. Some Lings come in to help out. There's that bigger pickup range on the Warp Prism. Nothing to kill it, though. No Ravagers made, no Queens available. Oh, they're gonna give up. They do get pushed back. Keep the Immortals alive, that's great, but without any buffer, eventually they would go down.
Yeah.
Oh, there they go.
Warp Prism in the main, looking to get something done here. I mean, I picked up 2 of the Immortals, and that's great, but I kind of feel like this is a game.
I do too.
We got the other gold base being taken too while this goes on, so even if they can't mine here, there's still just so much more they can do once that base is up and running.
Yeah.
Let's not forget too, Protoss has actually mined out their main, pretty much. They're going to mine out their natural soon. It's a clock for Bales and Starfairy.
Yeah, it's the Spire is also a clock. Oh, okay, they can't say it. No, never mind. Okay. I was going to say that the Spire wasn't a bad idea. They might risk, because you have to bank minerals, because you need more than like 4 mutas to be effective, you do risk kind of losing in this very odd little midway point if they do attack you at a very specific timing, but if you can get those mutas out, then you're almost guaranteed the win, because they're so focused on making everything that doesn't really do well against mutas. Like, Archons can obviously shoot up when they have Splash, but they're not going to be chasing mutas around 3 bases very effectively. That the mutas are usually the kill move. But just overpowering with Roaches could also probably work.
Well, I applaud their efforts to take a gold base. If this doesn't get taken, the game's over a long time ago, but I'm still not feeling too good for Bales and Starfairy here. And let's not forget, they're on their last life in this best of 5. It's 2-0 in the favor of the Zerg, and we're kind of getting towards that late game stride. Now, I guess the one thing is, while Protoss doesn't have upgrades, neither did Zerg. Normally we were seeing Rhaegar and Coco might be on like 2-2 already moving in, but
Did they lose the Immortals? Or I think they just brought them back. Alright, so the Warp Prism dropped them off, went to try and do some damage, didn't really find anything to do, and is coming back to provide that very important warping point. Militia Core was also remade. She can't really help out because Time Warp is kind of lame, to be honest. And there's no pylons to overcharge, but a little bit extra damage and the potential recall too.
Liking the idea of the Archons, and I like picking them up in the Warp Prism. 6 range on that Warp Prism does make it kind of turn units into Ghetto Blink. This is actually getting a little bit rough. The Roaches and the Ravagers this time are being dispatched. Before it was just the Roaches, now the Ravagers going down, and suddenly the Zerg players find themselves at a huge, huge deficit when it comes to army. They were up almost double the supply, down to barely matching their opponents.
They do have time on their side, though. A fourth base can be given up as long as they can buy time for more Ravagers, more importantly than Roaches. They need to get those Corrosive Biles in and, well, just have that range in the Archons, too. But the fourth base goes down super quick, and they're still trying to dance around as opposed to just getting as much defense as possible back at their other gold. More Ravagers are morphing in, but I think he needs more than just 3, even more than 5. More Lings to help out, too, but they're going to go pretty down pretty quickly to the Archon Splash. It is just a purely Archon Immortal army. This is the perfect counter to Roach, basically.
Yep.
And this, we thought it was over, but the composition just was too good. They also hit right before that 4-base production really kicked in. So, you know, Zerg could have potentially had 20, 30 more supply if they had just waited a little bit sooner. But still inefficient supply against what they were facing.
Yeah, and the problem that we're presenting are Archons from Team Blue before, now presenting Zerg, no income, no money to work with. Their main and naturals are going to dry up here in due time, and unfortunately just Roaches aren't cutting it. I almost wonder if it would be better to sacrifice this and try and just get a big army going, but while this goes on, there was an attempt at a counterattack before. They got cleaned up by the Mothership Core, so there's no damage on that gold base, and Bales to Star Ferry have a wonderful income.
Yeah, they do. Looks like this is the comeback time, is what didn't look like it was going to be. Their first push got handled pretty well. Not actually perfect, but pretty well. But not able to transition into anything else. It does make you wonder if they had continued with the mutas. They would have been able to sacrifice the 4th base, sacrifice the 3rd base, and then just hold up with an army that would have had 15, 20 mutas to help out. Now, there were 6 Archons at one point, so they probably would have had to counterattack and start a base race, but that still might have been the better choice.
Yeah. Even then, though, no matter how this plays out, it looks like we are going to go to Game 4, which is nice because, again, if you guys remember Game 1 of the series, Rifkin was really rooting for Bales on this, and a little bit shocked that this was the 2-0 like it was. And I mean, this game still, it looked like it was going to be a 3-0, like a real clean sweep, but this comeback has been very good out of Team Blue Archon.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a little bit, I don't blame them for being scared to push up this ramp, though. Corrosive Bile is a hell of a thing to worry about, but they will eventually just win.
Yeah, Zerg being a little stubborn in the GG here. It's like 5 Ravagers to hope to kill an entire army.
Well, the the eventuality is that they just mine out all the bases and overpower. But there you go. There's the GG. Bales and Star Ferry will bring it back. Getting a point there on the board. But make no mistake, folks, they are still on their last lives.
Yeah. But oddly enough, they're no longer getting rid of maps that are, you know, trickling down to the worst one, Prion Terraces. They just won on probably the worst map for them. And a little bit because Zerg, I don't think played that to the best of its capability. Central Protocol.
Yeah, there's question marks to be made. I mean, the initial not taking the gold fast and all these other things, but Central Protocol, I like this map. This is a really big map. It's Purifier themed, so I really like the design of it. There's quite a few cool things about it, but we recently learned that you can in fact get horizontal spawns on it, so it is an anywhere spawn map, not just cross spawn.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting here pretty quick, so join on up.
Oh, there we go. Let me join off you. So this streamer that I watch is currently eating Taco Bell on stream, and I only know because I saw a tweet as we tab out between games, and now, oh god, I really want Taco Bell. This looks so good. The mistake was trying to watch this. Zombie Grub. I want
that change. Come on.
I want a Crunchwrap Supreme, man.
I can't really complain about food this time with you because I had Korean barbecue, so.
Yeah, I've tried to eat basically nothing today to make up for the to make up for the macaroni mistake, is what we'll call it.
Yeah. I had such delicious Korean barbecue. And then I could have gotten like cakes and like, you know, pastries filled with like cream cheese. I ended up getting a bubble tea. Still
Nice.
pretty good. It's pretty good.
Had my first bubble tea with you guys at
TwitchCon. That wasn't
TwitchCon,
really
yeah.
bubble tea though. I was quite disappointed. One day you'll have real bubble tea that if you don't like it, I'm gonna be like, well, give it to me and then I'll drink it. But at TwitchCon, that didn't even happen. You're like, oh, I don't really like it. I'm like, you're right. Throw it away.
Yeah, I did throw it away. If you recall, I tried to give it to the homeless lady first. But the little black ball things, I always thought like everyone says they're so great, and I ate it, and I was just like, this is weird. I don't like this.
Oh well, and you probably won't like bubble tea even with the good type. Oh well, more for me then.
Yeah, that's how that works. Rifkin will mistakenly order it and be like, nope, this is no good. Here you go, Zombie Grub.
Bubble tea. I want teas with bubbles in them.
That's actually kind of what I was expecting a little bit, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, sorry. But hey, we're into game number 4. It was not a clean sweep, and they are barely bringing it back in the last game. But in the top right, it's the blue Protoss, Bales and Starfairy.
And their opponents in the bottom rights, Regor and Kokamites. Now this is a map, I don't know if you want to explore it a little bit. The terrain is quite cool looking, but there's also rocks that will eventually open up a second entrance to your main. So as we can see, the naturals get taken pretty easily, but that's something both teams are going to have to worry about a little bit later on.
Yeah. There's also no ramp to your main, your natural, which is not common in StarCraft 2 maps, but is, cured basically. I'd say they're trying to do it like one map every map pool. Bridgehead was the last one. And then you have this very, very odd... That's the one thing that's kind of bad about this map. As you said, like, the terrain is pretty cool looking, and, generally it's, like, an easy second. Third is a little questionable, so maybe not the greatest map, but what really sucks is this wall is very deceiving.
Yeah, this has actually got a bit of the same problem that Preon Terraces does, where to have this fully walled off, it doesn't look fully walled off, and the build grid for it is really... It doesn't reflect it. Cactus Valley had a similar problem, but with a smaller choke, so it ended up being better because it was smaller. This is a problem because it's larger. I really like the way the geysers look on this map, by the way.
Yeah, they're cool.
The only gold bases on this map are in the middle, next to the watchtower, so it'll be pretty easy to scout if someone were to take a gold base on this particular map. But quick scouts out of both teams, because once again, it could be an anywhere spawn map.
I didn't notice that the gold bases also have just far less minerals. Only 6 patches and 2 of them are half.
Huh, I didn't notice that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't imagine we're going to see a lot of people taking them, though. Even with players who have stylings like No Regret, who really like to take gold bases early, they're not well positioned tactically.
No, they're risk-reward type. Big risk. Not so much reward. Oh my god, there's dramatic music right now. Brr, brr.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's the best.
So once again, our Zerg players go for the speed opener as opposed to the greedy third opener. I think that's like... So the speed opener makes sense if you really think they're going to be attacked. Like, if this is Heart of the Swarm, I'd be like, yeah, of course, they won the macro game, so they're scared of a 2-base all-in, or some of early pressure like a 3-gate or even a 4-gate. But in Legacy of the Void, as you're so accelerated that usually by the time they're ready to attack you in some fashion, the third base has been done and, already productive, so it's not worth it for the Protoss. We see a lot less little pokes from Protoss in Legacy of the Void. And that's why I'm a little iffy on their choice for the Speedling build, especially since they also did not use it to attack at all. Now, that was the other option they had, to make sure they deny a third base, and they didn't. They got 2-base all in, and a third base was taken anyways. They did get the vertical spawns, obviously, so no way that anyone's going to take this base comfortably. But more importantly, the Protoss usually are the ones that benefit from this, as they want the closer distance to push, just be able to push safely in short time. Legacy of the Void, it's a little bit different, but it really just depends on who's being aggressive, and it looks like it's going to be Bales and Starfairy again.
Do me a favor and don't read our group chat on Skype, because I want you to think I was casting the game with you instead of watching illicit videos.
Well... Oh, I've seen that one! I was gonna link it to you. Not because of, I'm gonna help you watch illicit videos, but because the 360 thing, I was like, 360, it's not moving, and then I realized you could, move it!
Yeah, they did that with the World of Warcraft trailer. You could, like, the griffins flying over Stormwind. I think it's really cool, this whole idea of 360 video on YouTube. But anyways, the War Prism doesn't get much done. We have a third base being taken, and I guess this is one of the drawbacks to the map. Your third base is going to be very far away and pretty exposed no matter where you take it, unless you knock down those rocks, which we see Rigor and Kokomite currently trying to do.
Yeah.
So they'll have pretty quick access to their third, whereas Bales and Starfairy are going to be just a little SOL if an attack comes.
Mm-hmm. I thought they were going to be aggressive again because they were getting Immortals and not just that Warp Prism, but they do get the third base. That doesn't mean they won't be aggressive, but obviously less all in than that last game. And if they are aggressive, it's more of a poke. I guess they found success in the Immortals, but... Oh, here we go. Warp Prism's going to do some damage.
Oh, it's the wrong teams. I was going to make a Poke Bunny joke, but that's right. That's the previous best of
Yes, it's the previous one. But, the Immortals were effective last game because, you know, they attacked at a time where the Zerg was going to be stuck on Roaches and Ravagers unless they preempted it and tried to get a faster Hydralisk in. In this game, if they're going to try and go for a third base, yet still depend on Immortals to bust through the Roach line, they might be disappointed because, well, by that time, hopefully, Hydras are out and Lurkers are out. We saw the first two games be Ling upgrades to Ultras, but Pros have been complaining a lot about Roach, Ravager, Hydra, Lurker compositions, hitting them before they're ready.
By the way, quick side note, because I was bad and still haven't done this yet. Was it December 13th? I have to write this down before I forget. December 13th that we're arriving in Toronto? Or is it the 14th?
Yes, the 13th is Sunday.
Okay. Just being safe. War Prism is going to try and get some harass up, but we do have a counterattack and Roaches and Ravagers on the other side of the map. That Corrosive Bile easily takes care of the canyon, but Stalkers and Immortals are going to scare this back.
Yeah, not too bad. The goal base is taken from the Zerg, and I don't really mind it, I suppose, because of the spawn positions more than anything else. If they want to take another base, it'd be this one all the way over here with a War Prism constantly harassing. Not a great idea, and no one really wants to take this one. It's just, you know, asking to be pushed upon and killed quickly. So the goal base is actually the safest base in this scenario.
I mean, I could see... As funny as it is, I could totally see somebody like Cats pulling off like Spinecrawler shenanigans on a map like this. Just spread that creep and get in there. But ooh, it's a little bit too close for comfort. The Corrosive Biles aren't going to land on much, and the Ravagers sadly get caught in those force fields. They are big, derpy ass units.
There was some serious miss micro. They accidentally went into the army, and then if they were really on top of things, they could have had the Corrosive Biles ready to cut the force fields if they were afraid of being force fielded out. But no one ever thinks about that, to be honest. So, oh well. Immortal pops out just in time to help these Adepts, but it's not attacking, it's derping out. You know, the War Prism is doing more damage to the third base of the Zergs. Really nice harassment here, but the Lings do bust in. It gets scared away fairly quickly. Oh, there you get the Immortal. Oh, poor Immortal. Lurker Den is on the way. +2 melee upgrades as opposed to missile. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, they're going for a lot of Roaches and Hydras, so you think Missile would make the most sense, but Lings do provide a pretty instantaneous buffer if the Roaches aren't doing it because there's 4 Immortals powering through them.
I mean, the power of the Immortals was really well shown last game, but that was because it was an army that was really easily countered by them. Lurkers are going to change things up quite a bit. Now, the sad thing is, Disruptors, it costs nothing other than cooldown time and well-positioning to kill a Disruptor, or to kill a Lurker. So 2 shots per Disruptor can easily take out Lurkers 1 or 2 at a time. So the Zerg players, and what other Zerg players have been faced with, is a problem where they have to just keep producing more and more Lurkers. We'll see if that ends up being a problem or production falls off for Rigor and Kokomite, but I honestly don't think it will. Their late game has looked fantastic in games so far.
Similar to the Heart of the Swarm. Oh, sorry, finish your point?
Well, I was going to say, this will probably go to the late game with the way the map's been stalling out, but
yeah.
Go on.
Similar to the Heart of the Swarm, where Zergs could get stuck on Roach Hydra and just die at a growing Colossus count. We see in PvZ, Zergs are dying being stuck on Lurker Tech, which should be pretty powerful, but they do get countered by Disruptors, unless the Zerg can kind of get behind the Protoss and get us around. So we need to see more and more Zergs go up to that Hive Tech and utilize Abducts correctly.
Cannon's going to chase these off a little bit. This probes finally get back to mining. I guess not a whole lot of probes died through this, but still just down on probes in general. 51 to 71 drones.
Oh, no.
But here's the lurkers, and of course lurkers have incredibly long range. Disruptor shots going for the Hydras, which means nothing's going to touch these lurkers. And that one is sitting in the heart of the army, just chunking away at everything.
Okay, that wasn't a bad blink forward. That was actually pretty cool. Oh, lose the warp prism though. So that the way that you beat lurkers is not by just running headlong into them, even if you do have a big army or a lot of disruptors. The way is like what Rifkin was saying, like eventually winning out, because you don't have to build new disruptors, they have to build new lurkers, and they're not the ones that really want to run towards you.
This is the first time I've ever seen a time warp I really like, but this covering their ass as they decide to run forward. Oh, the disruptor shot almost hits them back in their own shot. Well, friendly fire, of course, but they will take out the gold base, which is nice. So well done here. One disruptor in the middle of the map. Yeah.
A little bit of a base trade, but one that is very awkward. Okay, it's going to be a recall, so not really a base trade, but units are starting to go all over the place for Zerg. Now they're going to kind of recollect, but at the cost of the gold base and a fourth base, more importantly. Like, gold or not, they need that extra base. In that first game, they played really beautifully. They were expanding consistently, and this one, they kind of got stuck in that fourth. Get a disruptor for all these roaches. Still not really worth it. Nope. Oh, sorry. I thought I missed a good disruptor shot. Not so much. Lurkers are starting to be those very good position lurkers, though. They're getting in between important points, so it is a bit of a time.
Summergrove, do me a favor. Hit
What?
Z. Or Z.
Oh, zoom.
Yeah, and then hit Shift Z.
Can we zoom out extra wide?
Yeah, now you don't have to worry about missing the shots. You'll have everything on the camera.
Yeah.
But while this goes on, I mean, the harassment gets cleaned up. Okay, it was a base trade. Gold base for gold base. Neither of these bases were too critical to either player's income. They were supplementary, but it's the bases here on the left, the third base for Bales and Starfairy. Those are the bases that matter the most. Hive Tech finishes very shortly, but again, and I really want to stress, with Lurkers being in play, this is where we're going to probably see Vipers over things like Ultralisks, because already there's a ton of Immortals. You don't want to build into this. Broodlords are always an option, even without upgrades, but I think between a couple of Abducts and especially Blinding Clouds, you're going to see Zerg start pulling ahead. Those Disruptors come in for the shots, free Abducts.
Yeah. Upgrades were pretty on point for Zerg, but again with those Lings, not the Hydras. It's a little odd. Like I said, Lurkers are...
Ooh, Mothership Core gonna picked.
Oh, well, free Mothership Core. Lurkers are great when they can get into a position that kind of forces the Protoss into a timer. Like, if they have to run past the Lurkers to defend something, they're not going to have a good time. But if they're the ones on the offensive and the Lurkers are defensive, then that's when they start really losing out, resource loss-wise. That's kind of what Zerg is trying to do, get them between them and a fourth base. But this time it's not really working out. The Lurkers burrow, but clumped a little bit.
They targeted down that Observer, too. That was really cool to see. That will give these Lurkers free reign to chomp away. Look at these Stalkers just going down, Zombie Grub.
Not too many kills quite yet on the Lurkers, but definitely a lot of damage done. Holy smokes. And they probably don't want to chase the army, but they can get to the third mineral line or the fourth base and cancel it. They do need to buy more time, however they do it, because they just lost a big old army. It was mostly Hydras. They were depending purely on those Lings to be the buffer, not really any Roaches. So the Immortals haven't had such a good job lately, but they've been enough to power through the Lurkers, help out a little bit. And they're obviously still alive.
More Lurkers are going to morph in. The Disruptor shots just barely fall shy of hitting those Lings. The Adepts look like they'll hold the wall. Roach is here to the third, going to pick off that cannon and start trying to harass the mineral line. Very important to start disrupting this, because let's not forget, both players are pretty much mined out of their mains. Their naturals are getting really dry as we speak, and Zerg still have two bases behind this, or rather on top of this through that third and fourth, whereas unfortunately Bales and Starfairy are relying on that one third base for income primarily.
Pretty even worker count, but you're right, Zerg is really high up there, 1,500 to just 1,000. Supposedly the graphs are, of course, broken. Hive Tech also finished, but no Vipers, just Adrenal Glands. They really want to depend on their old favorite, the Lings, that got them the 2 wins in the first place. Bales and Starfairy not really looking to push in. They can't push in too quickly, regardless of how impressive their army looks. If Lurkers are around, they have to play the waiting game with Disruptor shots, especially up a ramp. And they looked like they were doing okay. They're taking some pretty good fights, but now they're losing out in that long game with no extra base. Oh, that pylon. Oh, that War Prism should really go to the 5th. Like, ugh. The 4th. Do they have... Okay, they have one Observer. That could also be sniped. No Overseer here, though, and a bunch of Hydras... Oh, okay, actually the greatest shots I thought the Disruptor's going to get, to be honest. The Lurkers do end up burrowing. There is the Overseer trying to type the Observer. I believe they got it. They did, so once again, they have to pull it back. You really start needing to bring 3 to even 4 Observers with your army, as silly as that sounds, and then also controlling them correctly if you want to deal with Lurkers in a quick fashion. Anyways. Roach is once again going into the 3rd base. This is basically the last mining base that Protoss has, so every single, well, probe losses, I guess, aren't as important. 53 probes for one base, not exactly ideal. But anytime they can stop the mining there is important.
Disruptor's going to chase down these Hydras. I got to give it to Bales and Starfairy. They've been doing quite well with an army that typically gets countered hard by this. At the same time, Regular and Kokomite fall a little bit shy in some of the position here for these units, but chasing down these Immortals. One of the big things here is once they start getting rid of the Immortals, you know, Bales and Starfairy might not think about replacing this because they haven't seen a Roach in almost 15 minutes, but that's when Roaches start becoming more viable for Regular and Kokomite. Very cheap units, easy to produce. But Lings and Hydras are not bad either. Keeping the Lurker count high can be really nice. And this, you know, I just realized, for Bales and Starfairy, they know nothing about that bottom left base, or even the new one that's just now being taken.
Exactly.
Oh dear.
That's gonna lose them the game. They probably think it's 3 base versus, you know, 3 and maybe 4, and well, it's definitely not.
Yeah, I didn't even realize too what else is going on. They've been dedicating back towards those melee upgrades. So while Ultras are still not really that great of a choice, Mass Ling Floods certainly are going to be. The Adrenal Glands is done at this point, and Lings versus Stalkers is going to be great as long as they don't lose too many to Disruptor shots.
Yeah. Once again, this is a bug. If you see Colossus and Adepts on the upgrade screen, they're really not in play at all right now. But the most important thing with that upgrade screen is that, yeah, the Zerg is just far ahead in those, including those important ones like Adrenal Glands. And are looking better and better as now they have an up and running 5th base. They can get that drone count up higher, because, I mean, they've been on a pretty low drone count, well, just because they didn't have a lot of mining to begin with. So now if they have 2 full mining bases again, get that up a little bit. It's not that Bales and Starfairy had a bad composition, it was that they consistently took bad engagements, and then things got a little weird in the mid-game, too, where they had to try and defend the 4th, and that's where Lurkers do become strong, as they start cutting off Protoss' armies. But if they ever got into a position where it was just, you know, the Protoss Reserve army, like right here, for instance, Protoss do tend to win those stall-outs, just through patience alone with Disruptors. That didn't happen this game. Oh, Lings get through. Been pretty good about denying that so far, but this time, oh, they're gonna be like almost fully upgraded. They're gonna go for the upgrade too. That goes down pretty quick.
Oh, little probes here in the natural are going to get picked off. I mean, again, things are kind of getting mined out at this point. But these little trades here, while not ending the game outright, they're going to. Bales and Starfairy now have to rely on a gold base for their primary source of income, as the 3rd is even mined out. That's how long this has been dancing back and forth on the 3rd base for them. Yeah. And frankly, it's... oh man, it's not looking good for Team Protoss. But I said this last game, and then they brought it back, so I'm not going to count them out, that's for sure. I've learned my lessons on assumptions, Zombie Grove.
Until the next cast, where you forgot everything.
Yes, then I'm just like, well, Protoss is overpowered.
These Ling attacks are starting to really cut in their production and tech, to be honest.
Robo's gonna go down, actually. No more Disruptors. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Ooh, even the Robo Bay facility, whatever. I had those 2 buildings with the same name, basically. That's gonna go down as well. Tech now being lost here for Bales and Starfairy. They have the chance to go for a counterattack to win. It is 104 army supply for the Protoss. That's a lot of units in play. The problem is, though, income is something Regor and Kokomite are gonna be able to just throw away at their opponents. They can just build units and throw money at the problem.
More importantly, those Lurkers are acting like siege tanks. Even in the base trade and TVT, if your opponent has siege tanks lined up and you don't, you are going to lose, even if you have 100 more Marines. Lurkers provide that defensive strategy for Protoss, or for Zerg. Trying to push up into a ramp, already bad. Trying to push into Lurkers, already bad. Everything went terrible. Everything is bad. Everything is bad. And that's going to be a 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll say it. Like, Bales and Starfairy, they look better as they got going. Maybe they need to practice and warm up before this or something, but the first couple of games were pretty nasty. 3rd game obviously went in their favor, and this 4th one was looking good, despite this eventual loss. But here comes those Lings, and with Adrenal Glands, they're going to tear through this pretty quickly. Level 3 weapon upgrades. Prepare to watch this building melt. Good game's going to get called, and... CSL, again with the upsets. Regor and Kokomite. GG.
Yeah, well, I gotta be honest, they just played a really good series. A little questionable on those last two build order openers, but it worked out, so more power to them. And they will advance to the round of 16. Now that's going to be played, as this is done, round of 32 is done. Round of 16 is going to be played on Saturday, this Saturday, at 4 p.m. PST. So come check that out. Of course, we'll be casting a TBT tournament finals right before that, basically. So just one cast to another.
Yeah, the base trade TBT finale happens this weekend. It's going to be awesome. Tomorrow, though, let's not forget, okay, bright and early, it's going to be the Home Story Cup cast. But for those who might be a little more casual with StarCraft 2, we also have Zealot Hockey going on in the evening, afternoon, 4 p.m. Pacific. Make sure to come join us for that as well.
Yeah. A lot of stuff on the plate, but if you enjoyed our cast, well, if you enjoyed anything at all, actually, of course, you should try and follow CSL. It's a great initiative. Collegiate Esports is pretty cool. But if you liked us, you can follow me on Twitter at ZG Gaming and Rifkin.
At Riff_Kings with a Z. But that's really weird because I just realized I never have to do. I'm always the one tossing out to you. This feels weird.
Haha! Doesn't it, though? But yeah, that's something you have the option to do. And of course, you did mention it previously, but if you're in the mood for following, but not quite in the mood, maybe, then maybe you can follow us to enter a chance to win a Void headset from Corsair. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Those giveaways are still going on. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And that'll give you multiple chances. The more people you follow, Base TV, Rift Kings, ZG Gaming, all of those, be awesome. If you'd go ahead and, well, just do that. Maybe win a cool headset. The ones that you're using, by the way. So
Do the thing!
They look nice. Anyways.
Julie.
What thing?
The follow thing.
Yeah, the follow thing. There you go. Man, I said that in class yesterday, and no one got it.
Oh, poor you.
We're a bunch of nerds.
Poor
We're such a Korra. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So come back on this channel Saturday at 4 p.m. PST to see the round of 16 and the rest of the tournament, basically. So see you guys then.